Welcome back to the deep dive. As another school year wraps up, it always feels like a good time to take a breath, right? To look back, see how things went, celebrate the wins. And today, that's exactly our mission. We're going to unpack the Darien 61 2024-2025 school year update report. Basically, we want to pull out the key stuff, student progress, how kids are doing emotionally, what the vibe is like for staff,
Yeah,
and give you the highlights, the need-to-know info.
that's a great way to put it. This report is more than just charts and graphs. It really tells the story of their year. It looks at how they did against their big strategic goals, digs into student data, both achievement and, importantly, growth, and then uses all that to figure out the plan for next year, for 2025, 2026. And it all comes back to their main mission, inspire and empower each child to realize their full potential. That's the thread running through it all.
Okay, so let's jump right in then. Student performance, academics. The report mentions goals and greatness indicators. What were they shooting for, especially in math and reading? And what's the key benchmark we need to understand?
Right, so the big internal benchmark they use consistently is the 41st percentile. And as we're taking a second to understand why that number, it's not just random. Hitting the 41st percentile or higher means a student is doing as well as or better than the national average for their grade, which is a really solid sign they're ready for the next grade's work. Plus, it makes it much more likely they'll hit proficiency on those state tests down the road. So it's a meaningful target.
Got it. 41st percentile equals on track or ahead nationally. Makes sense. So let's talk math first. How did things look there this past year?
Math is, well, it's a pretty remarkable story this year. The data shows 77% of students hit that 41st percentile or higher in math. That's based on the spring MAP scores, MAP being the measures of academic progress test, the computer one that adapts to the student. And get this, their own greatness indicator goal was 70%. So they didn't just meet it, they beat it by 7 points.
Wow, 77%. Exceeding their own goal by that much is definitely impressive. But achievement is one thing. What about growth? Did students make progress during the year?
Oh, absolutely. And this is where it gets, I think, even more compelling. If you look just at the growth from the winter MAP test to the spring one, all grade levels, K through 8, were above the 97th percentile for growth in math.
Wait, did you say 97th percentile for growth?
97th, yes,
Yeah.
for all grades. So it's not just that a lot of kids are meeting the benchmark. It means the students, pretty much across the board, were learning and improving at an exceptionally high rate during that period. It really suggests, that whatever they're doing instructionally in math, the interventions, the support, it's really clicking. It points to a very dynamic learning environment.
That's incredible. Seriously, 97th percentile growth. Okay, so what about reading? How did the literacy side look?
Reading also showed strong results. The number for 2024-2025 is 67% of students at or above the 41st percentile. Now, that is just a little shy of their 70% goal, but still 67% is a solid number representing really good progress. And just like with math, the growth picture is also very positive.
Okay, tell me about the growth in reading.
Well, the report highlights that 6 different grade levels, kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th, were all above the 90th percentile for growth between winter and spring. So again, you're seeing really exceptional learning gains in literacy too, especially in those crucial early and middle grades. Kids are building those foundational skills quickly.
So academically, the takeaway seems to be strong achievement overall, especially that standout performance in math, beating the goal, and really impressive growth, those high percentile gains in both subjects. Feels like instruction is really moving kids forward.
That's a fair summary. The trends are definitely positive. The report does also mention, areas they're still watching, like lower overall achievement for Black and Hispanic student groups compared to the average in both subjects, and also that the growth from fall to spring wasn't quite as high as that winter to spring jump we talked about. So there's nuance, but the overall picture is strong.
Right. Always important to see the full picture. Okay, so that covers the academic side. But school is obviously more than just test scores. What about the kids' social and emotional well-being? How are they doing in that area?
Yeah, that's such a critical piece, isn't it? And the district clearly prioritizes it. Their SEL goal, social emotional learning, is all about creating a predictable, safe place where everyone, students, staff, families, can grow socially, emotionally, and academically. They really see how interconnected it all is. A child needs to feel safe and supported to really learn effectively.
Makes total sense. So how do they track that? How do they know if they're meeting that goal?
They use universal screeners, tools called SAEBRS, that's SAEBRS for K through 8, which looks at social, academic, and emotional behavior risk. And then for the older kids, grades 3 to 8, There's also my SAEBRS, which is a self-reflection tool, and the results from this year, they're really quite striking.
Okay, what did they find?
For the K-8 students, based on the SAEBRS screener, 86% were flagged as low risk for behavioral and emotional challenges, 86%. And only 1% were in the high-risk category. Then you look at the 3rd to 8th graders, the ones doing the self-reflection with my SAEBRs, 88% put themselves in the low-risk category. Again, really high, with just 2% saying high risk.
Wow, 86% and 88% low risk. That sounds really positive. What does that actually mean for the school environment, day to day?
It means, fundamentally, that the vast majority of students are showing up ready for school, socially and behaviorally. They're generally managing emotions well, interacting positively, and crucially, this isn't just based on what teachers see, it's backed up by what the students themselves are reporting, at least in those older grades. When you have that high level of readiness, it just creates a much better atmosphere for learning for everybody. It shows a really positive overall SEL situation, suggesting the district's doing a good job meeting those needs.
Yeah, you can see how that would feed directly into the academic success we were just talking about. When kids feel okay, they can actually focus on learning. But of course, none of this happens by magic. The teachers, the staff, they're the ones making it happen. So what did the report say about their experience? What's the climate and culture like for the adults in the building?
Absolutely crucial question. And yes, the report digs into that too. They use something called the HumanX Insight-Tex Climate and Culture Survey. For anyone not familiar, it's a pretty deep survey. It doesn't just ask, are you happy? It looks at 15 different research-backed areas that shape how an organization feels. Things like your individual job, how your team works, your relationship with your supervisor, and your view of the district overall.
Okay, so a thorough look. And what did the staff have to say? What were the big takeaways?
Well, the headline finding is really something. Get this. 95% of employees said they were either engaged or satisfied working in Darien 61.
95%. Engaged or satisfied. 95%, yeah. I mean, think about that number in any organization. It points to a really strong, positive climate, a place where people feel connected, valued, and generally good about coming to work. It suggests they've built a culture people want to be a part of.
That is an exceptionally high number. Were there specific things staff pointed to that they felt particularly good about?
There were. Looking deeper into the survey results, on a 5-point scale, staff rated feeling great pride in their work at 4.51. That's very high. They rated being fully engaged at 450, and taking ownership for a growth mindset also at 450. So these aren't just people punching the clock. They feel proud, they're invested, they're focused on improving both for themselves and for the students. It really paints a picture of a committed, proactive workforce.
It really does. Pride, engagement, growth mindset. That's a powerful combination. Now, even with a 95% overall positive response, were there any areas the district noted for maybe future focus or improvement based on the feedback? Yes, and I think it's a sign of a healthy organization that they share this too. Even with the great results, they identified a couple of areas for continued focus. One was around communication, specifically making sure staff feel well-informed about district happenings and decisions. The other was around staff recognition, just continuing to find ways to make sure people feel seen and appreciated for their work. So fine-tuning, really, rather than major problems.
Okay, that makes sense. Always room to grow, even when things are going really well. So let's try and tie all these threads together then. We've talked about really impressive academic results, especially that growth in math and reading, beating goals, or coming close. We've seen very high levels of social-emotional readiness in students, meaning they're well-supported and ready to learn. And now we hear about this incredibly high staff satisfaction and engagement, 95%. It feels like a very positive ecosystem they've built there.
It really does paint a holistic picture of success, and they're clearly looking to build on it. The report suggests plans for next year, like nudging that math goal up slightly to 75% at or above the 41st percentile, keeping the ELA goal at 70%. They'll keep focusing on SEL goals at the school level, and then district-wide, they'll target those communication and staff recognition areas we just mentioned. Strategies involve sticking with the programs that are working in math and literacy, providing good professional development for staff, and keeping the community involved. It's about building momentum and continuous improvement.
What a fascinating look inside Darien 61 through this report. Just to recap the big highlights for everyone listening, we saw truly exceptional student growth, especially in math smashing its goal, and Reading showing huge gains too. We heard about the vast majority of students showing up socially and emotionally ready, that high level of low risk, which is just so fundamental. And underpinning it all, that amazing 95% staff satisfaction engagement rate, showing a really healthy, supportive culture.
It definitely leaves you with a positive impression. And maybe, it raises an interesting question for you, the listener, to think about. When you see a district hitting these kinds of marks across the board, academics, student well-being, and staff culture, what do you think are the key ingredients? What are those fundamental things, those connections that make it all work together so effectively?
That's a great question. What is the secret sauce, right? It makes you think about how all these pieces really do need to fit together to create that kind of environment. Definitely something to chew on.